All right, Tom Luginbill, ESPN, at Tom Luginbill on Twitter. This guy, when it comes to a coaching search, we're not going to ask Luginbill to try to break news here, but Luginbill deals with these coaches. He sees how they recruit. He sees how they prepare for games. He sees how their teams perform Saturday to Saturday. Great resource to talk to about any of these coaches, and we always just enjoy having Lugs on. What is up, Lugs? How are you?
I'm good. Good morning, guys. I was listening in on your early segment when I signed on. Is Jim okay? Do I need to be worried about Jim?
Dunaway has he's going to stay in the studio in our you've been up here. You've seen our massive sprawling estate here where we operate this show from. Jim is staying within those doors, other than to go to the bathroom, until Alabama announces a coach.
Oh, all right. Well, you got beer and bourbon.
That's true.
I do.
Now, Tom, I am one of these guys that they think I love. I'm a glutton for punishment for Dunaway. And I do like to haze him a little bit. But I am going to vote if there is not a coach named by tomorrow that he can leave for 1 hour to go shower. Yeah. And a lot of this has to do, we've got some really nice furniture up here. And I don't want rats coming in or anything like that.
Up, yeah. I am 29 hours right now without a shower.
Whoa, look at you. So what created this stance?
I think I floated it out there yesterday, and he went with it.
Okay, here's what happened. So I'm late leaving the studio for some reason, and I walk into a gathering in our lobby, and I think Kelsey, with a smile, said, "Would you be willing to live up here until Alabama gets a coach?"
We've got a sponsor.
And we have a sponsor. And I said, our friends at Hemphill, I said, absolutely. Thinking that maybe the whole team was staying up here until there was a coach, and we were going to have a great fraternal weekend or a week or whatever. And turned around, I was a party of one. Table for one, please.
You fell for the banana in the tailpipe.
That's right. Hey, but it's all being streamed live, very Big Brother style, and a lot of people have enjoyed it. Yeah.
And this is the way. We'll send you some video from last night. But here's how I had. My wife's at Duke right now in class. I've got things I'm supposed to be taking care of at the house, so I had to call her real quick to ask for permission to do this. And I said, "Listen, we're staying up there until Alabama gets a coach." Blah 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 blah. Well, the stream starts, and she's instantly texting and calling me saying, "Where's LT and Brown?
Who are the we?"
And I said, "Well, they're not up there." And she's like, "When you said we, is it just you?" And I said, "Yes." And she's like, "Click, done."
She wouldn't even have known. He called. He didn't even need to call Luginbill. She would have had no idea. She packed her bag. She left town for a couple of weeks. Would have had no idea. Doesn't check on him. So he could have gotten away with this without having to check in.
Can we just have a nice round of applause for Jim for marrying a college chick?
Yes.
Younger women.
Me and Lane Kiffin, baby. Me and Lane Kiffin.
Cradle Robert.
Hey, I wanted to ask you this, Luginbill, because I have been saying for I don't know how long that Kalen DeBoer is a top 5 coach. I think he is fantastic. He wins all the close games, one-possession games. He beats all the ranked teams. People dog out his recruiting. Well, if you can play for a national championship with a composite recruiting average of whatever it was, and then you're able to come to the SEC and take over a program like Alabama, to me, the sky's the limit. A lot of people have pushed back. They're like, he's a Midwest guy that's coaching in the Pacific Northwest. It's not a good fit. I don't know if he'll take the job or not, but of the names you've heard, would you agree Kalen DeBoer would be the slam dunk?
I think he could be a slam dunk. I'm with you. Any coach that has started at the lower levels, that has worked their way up, and they've done so because they've won big, and then they've earned the right to take the next job, and then they continue to win big, and then they earn the right to take that next job, and then they win big. And at each step, the resources become better and better, so they become better and better. And so you could see the natural evolution here if it was to be a Kalen DeBoer. I think the reason why the focus is going towards Kalen DeBoer, or maybe towards Mike Norvell, and we're hearing some of these names, is because, quite honestly, and let's call it what it is, this is an elite level job. But you don't want to follow the man. You want to follow the man that followed the man, right? And that might be something that's, if you're Dan Lanning, you're looking at that, and that might not be all that attractive. I don't think Lane Kiffin is in the mix here, but there is that. it's a little scary there for some guys, I think. And with a guy like Kalen DeBoer, it seems like a natural evolution, but I feel the same way with a Mike Norvell, what he's done, how he's worked his way up, what he did for that Memphis program, obviously what he's done for the Florida State program. And Mike Norvell is a tireless recruiter. I do think it's imperative that whoever Alabama hires is a tireless, relentless recruiter, because if you bring those traits and you couple them with Alabama's resources, it gives you the best possible chance of sustaining excellence, because this may be almost an impossible job for whoever takes it, because the expectations, the level of success the last 17 years have been just out of the stratosphere. And lastly, I'll say this. You know, Alabama for a long time kept getting it wrong because they kept feeling like they had to hire somebody that had a tie to Bear Bryant. And then they did it. And 17 years later, here we sit. So maybe the turn is to hire somebody that doesn't have a tie to Nick Saban. Maybe that's could be looked at as a positive, could be looked at as a fresh start, because things are going to be different. They're going to be in stark contrast in many areas, and a lot of people are going to look at that as, oh, we're doing the wrong thing. That's not necessarily true. There's many different ways to skin a cat.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Luginbill. It's a great point. Tom Luginbill is with us as we sit here and enjoy our conversation about the coaching search going on in Tuscaloosa. And there is a chance that Michigan opens up, so you could have the two winningest all-time programs in college football history up at the same time. For Mike Norvell and what he did this year, how can we, though, as SEC Nation and Alabama fandom, sit here and say, you're 13-0, not good enough to make the playoffs, put Alabama in, and then turn around and say, hey, you're 13-0, good enough to be the Alabama coach, come on down. That's going to be a little speaking out both sides of our mouth, though, right?
No, I don't think so, because Mike Norvell didn't have any control over that. I mean, if you consider, and I was on the sideline for at least 3 or 4 of those contests with Willie Taggart, the early portion of Mike Norvell in year 1 and into the year 2, if you saw what that team was up close and personal, it was downright embarrassing. What he has done has been nothing short of miraculous when you consider what was going on in that building, the type of nucleus they had. I thought they had a bad locker room. But he did an unbelievable job of adding the right people, right? He can't control what the college football playoff did. He did what was asked of him, and he resurrected the thing. If anything, I think that helps him. I really do. I think that's something that would weigh in his favor. And are we to the point, guys, where if it's not Sark, if it's not Lane, where it doesn't look like it's going to be, if it's not this, that, and the other, who's going to be satisfied with whoever's left over, right? I mean, that's something to consider here too. And now you put that guy in an unbelievably difficult position, especially if he's not somebody that was quote unquote high on the list or tops on the list or the 5th on the list, what have you.
ESPN's Tom Luginbill with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. Listen, the question I'm about to ask you, I know Nick Saban would be an answer, or Kirby Smart would be an answer. So maybe a non-obvious answer. Can you give me a couple of guys when you talk to coaches, and you talk to a lot of coaches, when they say, boy, I do not like preparing for his teams. Give me a couple of guys that you hear that about a lot, that this guy, he as a coach, it's exceptionally difficult to prepare for his teams.
Lance Leipold at Kansas.
I knew that was going to be your first answer. Knew it was going to be your first answer.
Well, and they just did lose their offensive coordinator to Penn State. And if you've watched Kansas on offense the last 2 years, it has been remarkably impressive how they play people, the toughness, the physicality. A lot of those boxes are checked. I honestly, I think he's remarkable. There are Willie Fritz was another one at Tulane. If you're giving me guys that when I talk to other guys and people say, gosh, that's a well-prepared football team, or gosh, how are we going to beat these guys? I think Brent Venables is turning in to that guy as he starts to revamp that roster, because they are really detail-oriented and really, really well-prepared. Obviously, Dan Lanning is in that category, not in the mix here. I know everybody felt like that was a natural fit, and you know what? I would agree. I certainly think that it is. Aside from that, I just you start going down the list and you start looking at coaches that have been uber successful, but how are they viewed by the Alabama fan base? How would they be viewed by the college football fan base or supporters in the community of the state of Alabama to become Alabama's next head football coach? And everybody talks about a splash hire. I think this is far more about not winning the press conference, but winning the next 2 to 3 to 4 years and sustaining what's already been established. And it's going to be hard to find somebody that can do that at such a high level that, quote unquote, isn't Nick Saban.
Okay, let's say that Greg Byrne was like, you know what, I've got the flu. I'm going to turn it over to you, Luginbill. We're not going to tell anybody. You got all the money in the world to spend. You just tell me who we're going to hire. So first, give me the realistic guy that you think would take the job that you would go after, and then maybe give me a dark horse that nobody's talking about at all.
Go hire Jim Harbaugh.
Oh.
Boy, Alabama fans, I don't think they would like that.
Well, see, that's my exact point of my previous comments. That's the issue here, and that issue is going to apply everywhere. That's the reality of the situation. That is the downside to what you've become victim of, because it's been so good for so long that whoever comes in here, how's it ever going to be good enough? Unless you're in the top 4 every year and you win the national championship, or you're in the championship game, which is not going to be an easy task. I don't know if I have a dark horse in all of this, because if you're talking about dark horses, you'd be talking about names that will never actually ever be considered. If you looked at this from a sheer recruiting perspective, if you even bring up the name Mario Cristobal, how would Alabama fans react?
They don't.
Oh, gosh.
I did it last night, though, in the office in the live stream, and the guy was well thought of in Tuscaloosa, and it's not working in Miami.
Lugs, I've always said this about Cristobal. I actually think he's the guy you want Sunday through Friday. I mean, I think he's a excellent Sunday through Friday face of your program recruiter. His Saturdays are a train wreck a lot of times.
Yeah, listen, they haven't. All right, you want a dark horse, a guy that would be really, really good? Chris Kleiman.
Oh, the guy can build a program.
Fantastic football coach. Can build and sustain a program. Traits of physicality, toughness, discipline, effort, all of the things in the boxes that you want to check. But again, every single name, and we're chuckling about it, but every single name we're bringing up, we're going, oh, no, that's not going to go over. Oh, no, that's not going to go well.
Tell me what you know about 33-year-old Glenn Schumann.
Over at Georgia?
Yeah.
Well, listen, I think that there would be a natural understanding of what's expected, because he's been living it for the last few years. He's got a tremendous amount of resources around him, if that were to be an option, that would really be able to paint the picture of just exactly what you are stepping into here. You may sit there and say, well, I don't know if you'd want to do that. Well, Lincoln Riley became the head coach at Oklahoma at 34. And I'm a big fan of defensive-minded head coaches, because a defensive-minded head coach that is willing to accept what offensive football has become means you're going to go try and find somebody to coach what offensive football is now, which is only going to help you. Nick Saban went through that evolution. Kirby Smart went through that evolution. And so the only thing it's lacking right there is head coaching experience at a job of this magnitude.
Yeah.
Can I get a thought from you? We got a couple. Lance will ask you about a movie too, but just real quickly, the departure of Carnell Williams and Zach Etheridge. From the recruiting front, you've seen what those guys have done on the recruiting trail. They've resigned from Auburn. Don't know about Carnell's future. Looks like Etheridge is on his way to Houston.
Yeah, and sometimes you wonder when there's that transitional phase and you have alums, high-profile alums, that help to aid in that transitional phase. And then you bring in a new head coach and he retains those two guys. Could there be some divisiveness within a little bit in terms of different camps residing with one versus the other versus the head coach, what have you? I kind of get the sense that those retainees were kind of the transitional guys. And despite their recruiting efforts, despite their history with the program, maybe Hugh Freeze just needed those guys to get to a certain point and then wanted to get some of his own people in there and the folks that weren't involved in what I believe to be a very good job that Cadillac Williams did when he took over as the interim, kind of holding that thing together. So listen, in today's world of recruiting, the transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, all we're going to continue to see is a logjam on the highway of coaches and players going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I think programs that can maintain stability for the most part will end up weathering that storm the best.
Earlier this week, I watched the Spanish film Society of the Snow on Netflix. It's based on the Uruguayan 1972 rugby team that goes down. Yeah, I saw live in 1993. I was talking to some of the guys here about that. To me, it's a hard watch. Beautiful film.
It is.
But boy, the circumstances and how in detail they go. You got to carve out 2 hours and 25 minutes, and you got to be in the right mindset. But I thought it was one of those really well-done films. I wouldn't go back and watch it again. I think you've got to watch it without the voiceover, English dub voiceover. I think you watch it with the Spanish language and the subtitles. Have you seen it, though?
I have. I saw it 2 days ago, and I stumbled upon it because I was pissed off that the Reacher episode hadn't been released yet. So I was like, what else am I going to find? And I remember growing up, I loved that movie a lot. To your point, the amount of detail and how much further they went into the detail of the day-to-day trials and tribulations of what those people went through was where I thought they hit it out of the park. Because you're watching that and you're trying to put yourself in that position. And listen, we've all been somewhere where we've been cold, and you don't know what cold is until you've been cold. Like I had Minnesota at Wisconsin one year, and it was -15 wind chill, and I could feel all my heat going to my core. I could feel my blood pressure dropping, like literally feel it. I can't even imagine those types of circumstances. So yeah, I thought it was exceptionally well done.
I kept telling myself, like, I would have got one of those bottles of rum and I would have drank to blackout and stumbled out in the snow. Like, I can't imagine what they endured. I mean, really, I would have probably shut it down.
When they said that if they don't start eating, they're all going to die, and when their urine was black, that's a problem. Yeah, I think that's probably a problem.
Yeah. So a movie about a plane crash that led to cannibalism was a tough watch, is what you were telling me.
And they piss black. Yeah, and they show them pissing black.
Quick recap on that.
So it wasn't oil. It wasn't like, hey, we struck oil.
Look at us.
And I was like, how do you, like,
It's blood,
honestly,
right?
after 3 nights on Bourbon Street, I've got that rust color shooting out.
Yeah.
I've never gone to black, but I did do a little deep dive on it, and it says it's when you're extremely dehydrated.
Yeah, I can see it.
So have you guys ever walked into a bathroom in any athletic complex that football players would walk into, and over the urinal it shows the different colors what your pee should be? And the one at the bottom is like dark, like burnt orange, and the description next to it is bad teammate.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. If it's black, it's beyond that. Luginbill, thank you very much for the time. Have a great weekend.
You bet, guys. Whoever gets this job, give them a chance. Give them a chance.
Oh, you're
It'll be a good coach.
You're wasting your breath there.
Yes. We'll circle back.
It'll be a good coach.
We'll circle back when we have the hire. We'll see that. Thank you, Luke. Take care. Tom Luginbill on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline.